Hall of Famer Paul Heyman recently did a very rare interview with Chris Van Vliet earlier this week, and like I said at the top of the show, he gave us a lot of insight, no pun intended. So we'll start right here because little do we know that the beloved Brock Lesnar Paul Heyman tandem almost didn't happen. So let's go to Chris Van Vliet and Paul Heyman's conversation about Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman. Fair use.
To this tribal chief.
Brock Lesnar is obviously tremendously talented and incredible athlete. But I'm curious, what does Brock Lesnar's career look like without Paul Heyman?
Brock Lesnar would still be massively successful. I wonder what Paul Heyman's career would look like without Brock Lesnar. My legacy in my early days was the Dangerous Alliance in WCW. That legacy changed with the work I put in with ECW. I came out of ECW and I'm in WWE. And what would my legacy have been in WWE? Well, that certainly changed when I got put with Brock Lesnar. And then to the point where just me sitting on a couch with Roman Reigns because I'm Brock Lesnar's advocate was an incredible shift in the dynamic in WWE because you couldn't imagine Brock Lesnar's advocate with another top star like Roman Reigns. What would Brock Lesnar's career have been? Massively successful, just not the same as it was. We are a very unique pairing, and we work well together behind the scenes, and that transpires on camera. There's a camaraderie. There's a trust between us. There's a pursuit of greatness amongst us.
So with the pairing of Paul and Brock, as much fatigue as we've gotten over the years with the two, the combination will always work. The chemistry is always there. Let's continue.
That permeates the screen. And there's a closeness to us that you can sense as we bounce off of each other. And it works. And we're in sync with each other when he's performing in the ring. Would he have been fine without Paul Heyman? Absolutely. Brock Lesnar is the modern day Jim Thorpe. He's the greatest athlete on the face of the planet. There's no one like Brock Lesnar. And he is the most underappreciated, underrated in-ring worker I have ever seen in my life.
I agree. The whole stigma that Brock has is valid, but when it's time to put his dancing shoes on, he will. If you go back to the match with AJ Styles, his stuff earlier in his career, you would see that when it's time to put the dancing shoes on, Brock Lesnar will put the dancing shoes on. Let's continue.
Where did the idea of him debuting with you even come from?
I don't know how much of this will have to be edited. I was actually scheduled to come back at that WrestleMania 18.
Because you had called WrestleMania 17.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then was the color commentator for Jim Ross through Survivor Series. Then WWE defeated the Alliance, and I was off camera. I was coming back on camera, WrestleMania 18, to manage, I hate that word, Chris Benoit. And that was where we were headed. And
so some insight with that. So after Benoit was out at King of the Ring 2001, so he missed the rest of in June. So he missed the rest of 2001, including the Alliance stuff. And he will return, I believe, May of 2002. But he was also involved in the draft in 2002 as well. And I say he would not return until May of 2002. So this is interesting because the night after WrestleMania 18 is when Brock Lesnar made his debut when he destroyed the Hardys.
This is like 01, like late.
02.
So early 02. Okay.
Brock was very impatient in OVW and moved back to Minneapolis and told WWE, put me on the main roster or cut me loose. So WWE was bringing Brock Lesnar in for dark matches. Brock standing in the middle of the ring during the afternoon, and all these old timers are there. Jack Lanza, Tony Gurria, the previous regime of producers. And it's the same thing. Just stand in the middle of the ring, kid. You'll be fine. Just let everybody bounce off of you. Don't move too much. He should be a Russian. He's an NCAA Division I heavyweight champion. Look at his combine numbers. Look at what he can do. Look at his leaping ability. Look at the way that he moves. Have you ever seen anyone move like that, let alone someone of that size move like that? And listen to his name. You couldn't think of a better name for a fighter. Brock Lesnar. And you want him to be a Russian? And Taz brought him over to me because Taz was such a huge fan of Brock's amateur career. And Taz said, hey, brother, they're going to screw this up. You got to get involved in this over here. Because Taz had experienced that with me in ECW when he was the Taz Maniac, and we turned him into the MMA fighter Taz. Taz was the first person in pro wrestling that started having people tap out. So I went to Vince and I said, hey, we have a heavy investment in Brock Lesnar. We're going to screw this up. Oh, damn it. Do something about that. Take over his matches. You produce them. So I started producing his matches, and we just went by the theory of simple, spotlighted, singular. We just kept his matches to that. It would resonate. It would translate to the audience. And in that, we found a chemistry with each other that was undeniable. And Vince experienced it in the room with us at one point. And the night before WrestleMania 18, Vince pulled me aside and he said, this whole thing with Benoit's called off.
As it should have been.
Okay. I'm putting you with Brock Lesnar. Okay. Happy to be of service. Because I knew this is a once ever opportunity. And that's a once ever athlete. And this will be a once ever act.
You know what's the moment?
All right, so that's interesting to actually hear because it's good to hear that that Brock always had the same energy, and that I can always appreciate that. He's been like this way since day one. And how different would have things would have been if Heyman wasn't with Brock? Like, Paul Heyman meant a lot to Brock. He was the mouthpiece. Brock never necessarily did a bunch of talking. When he became a face in 2003, that's when he did most of his talking. But Brock was never a big talker, and Paul Heyman was the big selling point when it came to Brock Lesnar. Like, I remember when Brock would debut in 2002. I believe after the match at Backlash with Jeff Hardy, that Paul on commentary, JR would say Heyman might have actually found something here. And 2002 would eventually become the summer of Brock. Now, but I said, very interesting to hear this, that it almost wasn't Brock Lesnar. Brock was ready to leave. Vince put them two together. And let me know what you guys thoughts about what if Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman were not put together, and what Brock Lesnar's career would look like in your guys' opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Now, another part of this interview was